You've probably heard of a business case interview, right? You might think of it as this super high-pressure test just to get a job in consulting. But what if I told you it's actually a powerful mental model for solving almost any complex problem? Today, we're going to crack open the case method, not as some interview trick, but as a framework for thinking more clearly and making way better decisions in any part of your life.
Okay, so to really get this, we're going to start with a piece of advice from the world of high-stakes case competitions that honestly sounds totally backwards at first.
Take a look at this. This is from a successful case competitor on Reddit who says the final answer, the actual recommendation, isn't even the most important part. That feels completely wrong, doesn't it? I mean, what's the point of all that work if the solution you come up with doesn't really matter?
And that's the big question, isn't it? If acing the case isn't about hunting for the one correct answer, then what on earth are they actually testing? Well, the answer reveals a skill that is so much more valuable and universal. To get to that answer, first we have to understand the kind of problem the case method was even designed to solve in the first place. Just think about it for a second. In the real world, whether it's in business or just life, we almost never have all the data we want. Leaders have to make these huge, critical calls based on limited, sometimes really fuzzy information. That is the fundamental challenge of management. And that's exactly why the folks at Harvard Business School came up with the case method way back in the 1920s. They basically created a flight simulator for the brain. It was a way to train people to navigate that fog of uncertainty and connect abstract classroom theories to messy, real-world problems.
So, how does this whole thing work? Let's break down the classic framework, the real intellectual backbone of this whole approach to solving problems.
So, at its core, a business case isn't just some made-up story. It's a detailed report of a real business problem. It's like a practice zone where you can sharpen your analytical skills on a real-world scenario, but without any of the real-world consequences if you get it wrong.
And when you look at the actual process, it's so simple and logical. This four-step framework, which comes from Harvard's own guidelines, is a blueprint you can use for pretty much any complex problem. First, figure out where you are right now. Second, define what the real problem is. Then brainstorm your options. And finally, pick the best path forward and actually do it.
And boom, there it is. This brings us right back to that Reddit comment from the beginning. The official guidelines explicitly warn you, don't fall into the trap of searching for a single correct answer. The whole point isn't the destination, it's the journey, the process of exploration, discussion, and structured thinking. And here's where it gets really interesting. This structured way of dealing with uncertainty, it isn't just for business consultants. It turns out it's a fundamental human skill.
In fact, some fascinating research published on Archive shows that the case method isn't some niche business school trick. Nope, it's just one application of a much, much larger toolkit that experts use to manage uncertainty across all kinds of different fields.
So, how big are we talking? Well, researchers found over 110 distinct strategies that people use to make decisions when they don't have all the facts. They gave it a name, the Risk-Reducing Design and Operations Toolkit, or RDOT for short.
And just look at the range here. It goes from formal algorithms to reactive plans, from dealing with competitors to even finding the positive upside in all that uncertainty. This toolkit is used by everyone from military strategists and engineers to public planners. It just proves that thinking in a structured way is a universal key to navigating the unknown.
Okay, so let's bring this all the way back to that case interview. If the final answer isn't the main point, then what are the judges and interviewers really looking for?
This progression tracker from the Darden School of Business really tells the whole story. You don't get good at this stuff by memorizing answers. You move from a total beginner to an expert by mastering the method itself. It's all about the process.
And this slide is where the magic happens. It shows the real difference. The academic steps on the left, that's your foundation. You have to do that. But the people who win the top competitors, they live on the right side. It's all about how clearly you communicate your thinking, storyboarding your logic, using charts, and always explaining the impact. So, here's the bottom line. Your thought process has to be presented as a compelling, logical story. It's not enough to just do the analysis. You have to explain why it matters, what the so what is. That's the real test.
At the end of the day, these big firms use the case as a stage. Sure, they want to see your problem-solving ability, but what they're really watching is how you think, how you communicate, and how you work with others when the pressure is on. All right, let's wrap this up with the single most important idea you should take away from all of this.
Look, the real prize here isn't getting the job offer. It's getting this way of thinking wired into your brain. The case method teaches you a structured, repeatable process for breaking down messy problems, analyzing your options, and communicating a clear path forward. That is a skill you can apply to any complex challenge you will ever face.
So, the final question I want to leave you with isn't how do I find the right answer to a case? It's where are you going to apply this powerful process in your own life? Because once you have the framework, any problem just becomes a case waiting to be cracked.